Muchas gracias. Señoras y señores, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to be here today with such a distinguished audience of experts, and I'm very grateful to the President, to Nayara Ortiz, to Julio César Gutiérrez, and the other colleagues from Sedigas for inviting me today. The topic of my intervention is the future of gas infrastructure, and making predictions about the future is never easy, especially for academics. But let me start with a simple but fundamental statement. We no longer need to rethink the energy system. The shift has already happened. What we need to rethink is how to build an infrastructure, a European infrastructure, able to support this shift. The European energy system is no longer anchored around fossil fuels. It is being reshaped rapidly by electrification, decarbonization, and geopolitical change, particularly since 2022. For decades, Europe's energy infrastructure was built around gas, a vast integrated backbone of pipelines, storage facilities, and LNG terminals, ensuring flexibility and security. But today, the system is evolving. Electrification is accelerating. Renewable energy dominates new investments in support of decarbonization, and regulation has been adapting at unprecedented speed in the last few years. This transformation has profound implications for the gas infrastructure, which need to adapt and are at the same time profoundly impacted by these trends. So today, I would like to frame the discussion around three key questions. Is the future electric? Is the future green? Is the future secure? Each question represents both a challenge and an opportunity for the infrastructure that will need to be serving the future system and recreate a new energy backbone. So let's start with the first one. Is the future electric? There is little doubt that the European Commission is moving decisively towards electrification. We heard it already this morning from the representatives of the Commission here in Madrid. Recent initiatives, such as the European Grids Package, aim to modernize and expand electricity infrastructure to support renewables, reduce prices, and accelerate electrification across sectors. Electricity is increasingly seen as the primary energy carrier. Renewables generated around half of the European electricity in 2024, and grid expansion is now the central constraint in the energy transition. This represents a clear strategic challenge. Gas is no longer the central pillar of the system. But on the other hand, electrification does not eliminate gas. It redefines its role. Electricity systems depend on critical raw materials, complex supply chains, and weather-dependent generation. And this creates a requirement for flexibility, as well as fundamental need for insurance against disruptions, such as blackouts and cybersecurity attacks. And here, gas infrastructure remains indispensable. Storage ensures seasonal balancing and is still the greatest system insurance provider. Gas provides backup for power generation, and more importantly, it sustains hard-to-abate sectors like industry and heavy transport. And gas nowadays is still indispensable to these scopes. So the opportunity is clear. Gas infrastructure becomes not the backbone, but the stability layer of the energy system, not only via the existing gas pipelines at transmission and distribution level, but also via LNG, which accounts today for about 45% of all European gas imports, with 2025 being a record year according to the Acer LNG monitoring report published just last week. Mindful of this important role of gas and gas infrastructure, after 2022, the European regulation has worked in the direction given by the Draghi and Letta reports about the strong need to protect and facilitate European industry and make our internal market competitive with other world markets such as China and the US. The Industrial Accelerator Act was also briefly mentioned this morning, published a few months ago, targets the revitalization of European manufacturing and economic security, aiming to increase industrial manufacturing to at least 20% of Europe's total GDP by 2035. And the main focus is on automotive, net zero technologies, and energy-intensive materials, such as steel, cement, and aluminum. So a clear opportunity for the sector. Now, let's move to the second question. Is the future green? The answer is equally clear. Yes, the future is green. The European political framework is firmly anchored in the Green Deal and the climate targets, climate neutrality by 2050, increase of renewable in energy consumption, and reductions of greenhouse gases. Electrification, renewables, and lately, more and more nuclear energy, especially in some countries, the debate is very much heated, are expected to dominate. In most sectors, direct electrification is the most effective pathway, as demonstrated by several publications. This raises a critical challenge. What is left for gas in a decarbonized system? The answer lies in the transformation of gas itself, from natural gas to renewable and decarbonized gases. And the next panel will discuss this in details. In the latest annual meeting of the United Nations Economic Commissions for Europe, the message resonated clearly. Biogas and biomethane have an unprecedented potential, but this potential needs to be strategically supported with a stable, forward-looking, harmonized regulatory framework. And we're all aware that here we have to do our part. Not by chance, the Accelerate EU, which was published on 22nd of April, really recently, recognizes a potential increase of existing biomethane plants from 10 to 30%. Now, not in 2030 or 2050, today. And also, very importantly, it recognizes the important value beyond decarbonization of biomethane, also to increase security of supply, because it is internally produced. It's a very important source for the European internal energy market. Similar considerations can be made for hydrogen, with all the due distinctions, but hydrogen is no longer a hype or an interesting topic for academic discussions. It has been so for a few years, but now it has moved into reality, thanks to technological innovation, a strong push from several market operators, and also from the realization of concrete infrastructure projects. Regulation has, albeit not quickly, supported this transformation, as we know that regulation and technological innovation or markets do not travel at the same speed. But let me quickly mention the importance, once again, of the hydrogen and gas decarbonized market package of 2024, updating the rules. Now we have the rules to enable a market framework for renewable gases, development, dedicated hydrogen infrastructure, and the conditions to repurpose existing gas networks. Moreover, the agenda of the European Infrastructure Forum, which is taking place today and tomorrow in Copenhagen, includes an important session on de-risking hydrogen infrastructure. Hence, how to move from high risk to bankable investments, already during the early ramp-up phase. And last, but definitely not least, the Accelerate EU Act, published less than 1 month ago, announced targeted review of the production criteria for renewable hydrogen. By 30 of June, we will have a proposal for consultation, and I know that this was very much awaited by several of you, the so-called additionality principle, probably. This means, in a nutshell, that gas will not disappear. It will evolve, keep evolving into molecules, clean molecules, compatible with climate neutrality. So gas infrastructure operators face a strategic opportunity to be seized, to become multi-molecule network operators, and to manage methane, biomethane, hydrogen, CO2, and beyond. We are now at the third question: is the future system secure? Security of supply has returned strongly to the center of European policy, as we heard also in the opening of this event. Recent developments highlight continued pressure on gas storage levels, LNG dependency and price volatility, and geopolitical uncertainties. Some of these elements are, of course, beyond our control. But it's certain that Europe faces a more complex risk landscape, from geopolitical shocks to supply chain disruptions. At the same time, investment needs are massive, market integration remains incomplete, and price disparities persist across member states. The challenge is therefore not just security, but affordable security. The opportunity lies in integration. This is really a key word for the future. Integration, both regulatory and infrastructural level. We are already seeing this shift. The grids package explicitly promotes coordinated planning of electricity, hydrogen, and CO2 networks. Now we can discuss on the vision for this coordination and on the governance. The gas package integrates market rules with infrastructure planning, and the Commission is revisiting right now the security of supply framework. And here there is an important novelty. It's the first time that Europe is looking at security of supply as an integrated target. The review, whose outcome is expected any time these days, it was planned for 19th of May, addresses both the gas security of supply regulation, gas, reviewed for the last time in 2017, and the electricity risk preparedness regulation, their measures and the targets, with the objectives to make them compatible, so electricity and gas, talking together the language of security. It's the first time. This sends a very clear signal. Future energy security will not be based on electricity or gas, but on several energy vectors together. And for infrastructure operators, this means cross-sector collaboration is no longer optional. Coordination with electricity networks, hydrogen systems, and telecom infrastructure even becomes essential. So let me conclude with 3 key messages. First, sector integration is not a theoretical concept. It is the operational reality of the European energy system. Second, regulation is evolving quickly to support this vision. The gas and hydrogen package, the grids package, the upcoming revision of the security framework, all going in the same direction, and the renewed focus on industrial policy. Together, they create the conditions for an integrated energy system. Third, the success of this transformation will depend on each of us and also on you, the infrastructure operators, because ultimately, infrastructure is where policy meets reality. Policy ambitions also meet reality. And there's a need for investment, innovation, and collaboration across sectors to make this vision deliverable. So the future of European energy systems will be electric, green, and secure, but only if we ensure that gas infrastructure continues to play its new role, to be flexible, integrated, and resilient. So I thank you very much for your attention, and I wish to all of us a good continuation of this important debate. Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you.